morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 6th of April 2026. I'm acutely aware to take my time. I'm being made really aware of what can happen when we rush through things. Not only a lack of information, a misrepresentation of the messages, but a tripping up of our own tongues this week. This is the second time I've recorded this video, and the first one I'd nearly finished actually, and I got halfway through and it just didn't feel right. Even though I kept plodding on, even though I kept doing my best, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel enough anymore. Not in a negative way, in a truthful way. And this week we may find that with the energies that are rising. And I say rising because one of the things that still sticks with me from the last video is the knowing. I was very tempted to place my head down while I was talking in the last video because it gave a better angle. Right? We all know how to position ourselves for selfies and for videos, and it got rid of all this underneath my chin, but it covered over my throat, and it covered over my throat physically and in what you could see, and it shrunk my whole energy down. Just looking good shrank my whole energy down. There's a lot rising at the moment. I'm aware that it's Angel Monday today, and there's a lot rising at the moment in regards to spirituality and the importance of physicality within it. Whether you want to say that's Mary Magdalene with Jesus, or the return of the sun and the change of the seasons, it is the physical that sees transformation and therefore rebirth. Okay? It is our physical body through the eyes of the feminine, that intuitive wisdom. The physical is the feminine. Through the eyes of that intuitive wisdom that we can see change. This is really important this year, not only in the Wheel of Fortune year and the Magi year, as above so below, as within so without, but also to recognise any energetic cycles that we have not become stuck in, continued to create out of fear of the alternative. I want to say not fear, but it is fear. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It doesn't matter if it's uncertainty. It doesn't matter if it's not being ready or not worthy, or this is all fear. It's not love-based, it's fear-based. Collectively, of course, that is occurring, but internally that is occurring. And this week, physically, we are going to get the opportunity to express where things aren't in balance anymore, where no matter how much we give, no matter how much we push through, no matter how much we endure, thank you, and sacrifice, there's no excuse for the behaviour. Now you can look at that on a global scale. It doesn't matter how many reasons we find for something, there comes a point when enough is enough. Or you can bring that closer to home, knowing that they are one and the same. The invitation is to change our position, not only in our physical position, to lift our heads, to truly see what is happening outside as a reflection of within, but also to straighten ourselves up, to get honest with some home truths as well. Many things grow. The soul grows, which means the soul's capability grows, which means what the soul needs in order to continue to flourish grows. And that's going to be different for everybody. There are going to be those, and I'm seeing it a lot of late, that come in at the top. They come in at the top because they've had experience in X, Y, and Z, and that's great. But they come in at the top at different establishments, different arenas, different ways of life, if you will, at the top, with all these wonderful ideas of how to harvest the fruit. But their journey is to start at the roots and be able to do that. There are those that have been at the roots, the grafters, the hardcore, that have learnt from, you know, well, the grit. Their role now is to see how that can bring forth fruition. We don't grow in the same stuff. We don't grow in the same stuff. We expand the same things, but we don't actually reach anything different. Thank you. Yeah, we can grow, but we won't actually reach anything different. I remember going to a forest once on a bit of a vision quest. Actually, I was traveling with the wands, which is what I'm doing today, on a bit of a vision quest. And it's really nice to see that, because back then it was, this whole world was like, this whole spiritual world was blowing my mind. It was a little bit crazy, actually. So no matter where you are, trust me, there will come a point where you go, oh my God. And that's the other invitation, isn't it, this week? It's not that we're not good at what we're doing. It's about seeing how much we're capable of doing and just allowing that to grow naturally. Okay, it's not that it's not good enough, it's just that there's more to be received. I was doing this journey in the woods and all these trees were really crammed in together. And I can see this as an analogy of work as well, right? So you may find yourself in a position where there's lots of people doing what you do, or very similar. Now, we're not the same. None of us are the same. And the more we try and be the same this week, the more there's going to be a primal uproar from within, okay? Because it's that intuitive feminine wisdom that's saying, this is not what I wanted you to be. I already have that person for that. This is what I need of you. But anyway, I was in the woods and I watched these trees and they were all cramped in together. All trees, all in the woods, all different types of trees, but all trees nevertheless. And because there was no space to go out, they went up. They sought the light and they moved in the direction of the light. And the only way for them to grow was to go up. The further up they grow, the further out they grow. Okay, really connecting to the wisdom of trees, but also of our ancestors. That's the other thing that came up. The dreams of late have been on another level, right? There's a lot going on that isn't as it seems in the dream world, but also in our physical world as a response, recognizing they're one and the same. Okay, recognizing they're one and the same. There's going to be the opportunity to have more lucid-like dreaming for many over the next year or more. Well, it will be into 2028 because it's the Hanged Man year. Okay, but my dreams last night were of an ancestor beneath the soil who I was trying to connect to and I couldn't. All the time I believed she was from the soil facing up, but she wasn't. She was from up facing down. She was facing down into the soil. And the moment I realised that, this of African heritage, slave ancestor, the moment I realised the direction she was facing, which was looking down into the earth, I could place my hand on her back and feel her heart within mine. If we can connect to the earth, if we can connect to the physical body, if we can connect to the wisdom of being human, rather than see it as something we are enslaved in, that we have no choice but to feel these things, we have no choice but to be at the mercy of those that are higher up, whether that's externally sourced faith and hope and masters and guides, or those that are in power. If we continue to look outside of ourselves rather than connect to our own physical body, and then from there the connection of the earth, we're always going to feel as if we're enslaved to a system that doesn't work for us. Look at the direction we now need to face. It's Angel Monday, right? I don't know a lot about the religions, like I say, but I do know that it was when the angel came to the women in the temple and asked why they were mourning, why they were grieving, because Christ had been risen, Christ had been resurrected, the light had been reborn. And I understand that that can be really hard right now. I get that that can be really difficult with everything going on. I felt it, right? Last few days, the peace ornament on my altar that holds the earth has fallen off without anybody touching it onto the floor. And I felt it and I've seen it and I've been aware of it and I've acted on it in a way that I needed to act on it. That was prayers and drumming. If you're being made aware of something, how are you being asked to act on this? What is the spark that's being called within your physical body? It might not make sense. You might question it. You might think, well, how has cooking for my family got anything to do with wars across the globe? You're looking after your community, and sometimes, not sometimes, all times, the smallest ripples have the biggest effect. Do what you're here to do. We're all here to do something, and together that makes a huge impact. So often, particularly in the spiritual arena, I see many people that, again, want to go straight to the top, want to go straight to the top of self-actualization without walking the experience of physical life, without having those foundations. We are in the year of fire. That's a triangle. Yeah, it's a triangle in the platonic solids. We need solid bases. We need to stretch out and then up. How does that come in play? Well, your everyday stuff. Your everyday stuff. And I know that can be really hard to think about when it feels as if the world has gone tits up, upside down. But it's the everyday stuff that will bring in a routine of structure that is solid, that will help you maintain focus. Whether that's planting things in your land or your garden, whether that's feeding your family, whether that's going to work, whether that's doing your shopping, all of these things. It's Bank Holiday Monday, right? Look at the things that you're investing in. Look at the currency you're investing. Energy. Energy is our biggest currency. It always has been. So is our emotions. From a human perspective, our emotions are the biggest currency, that are psychologically primed without our knowing often to react in certain ways, to think that that doesn't matter. Well, I'll do that later. Or there's no point doing X, Y, and Z. This video very nearly didn't happen because it's Bank Holiday Monday and I want to be with my family, and I want to you know, that voice in my head that was like, well, there's no point, no one's going to watch it, X, Y, and Z. Actually, this is what is being asked of me. Get up, show up, do what is being asked of you, bring it into your everyday life. Okay, physically search the light. Search for it, find it, go up if you have to, go out if you have to. If you're feeling crammed in and repressed and restricted and you feel as if you can't do it, then dig deep, connect to the primal energy that is rising. I'm going to look at the energies for this week and how to best navigate them in a moment, but one of the other things, a couple of other things, okay. This year is the year of change and the wheel and the magi. It is about learning that change comes through our actions and how willing we are to receive those initiations and become part of them. Next year is the wheel of justice, the year of justice, okay, but also the high priestess. Can we take that intuitive wisdom now and restore the balance? How do we do that? It's Angel Monday. It is the higher guidance that comes to our physical self and says, but look at the change that has happened. You know, me in those woods all those years ago, my God, my mind was blown. I thought I was losing my marbles. And here I am traveling with the wands again. Look at what has changed. Look at where you have changed. Look at where you have grown. Have those foundations first before you rush in above and beyond your means. It's just above and beyond your means. It doesn't mean that you can't. But until you realise how far you've come, you're only going to be able to see where you can go from a certain perspective. And it's very tunnel vision-like at the moment. Yeah, like one of those optical illusions. Very tunnel vision-like. For some, that's going to be necessary. But for others, particularly those that have always done it, look at what you're missing out on. In the peripheral, look at what you're missing out on. So yes, next year, as I say, we're going into the 11 years. So this year is all about the change, but next year it will be about what we do with those changes. And it will be more on a divine intelligence guidance level. We're going to be stretched. So as I go into my 11 year from July onwards, there's a retreat that's going on that I would love to go to. But there's some resistance there because it's very primal. And it feels a bit dark, actually, or what I perceive as dark, even though I know that's not the case. How I perceive myself as dark. The truth of the matter is it's primal, it's tribal, and it's the pushing away of our tribal, primal roots, our connection to the soil that is giving us this lack of imbalance, this uncertainty. Why? Because we're trying to look the part, the holier than thou. I'm very aware that my drum is making like a halo around my head. How we see enlightenment needs a good shake up. It really does, with ourselves, with the collective, with the stories that have been woven throughout them as well. Do I go there? Do I go there? This morning there was a medical representation of the crucifixion, of what Jesus would have actually gone through physically based on the crucifixion, the bits that you don't see in the movies. Now, I'm not going to get into whether or not the story is real or what you believe. One of the things I've noticed this weekend is a even greater separation of faith and hope because of this mockery that people have taken out of other people's beliefs. If it's your thing, great. If it isn't your thing, great. But none of us have the right to take hope and faith out of the heart of another. None of us. I needed to get that off my chest, literally. But anyway, I looked at this medical account of what the crucifixion would actually look like. I'm not going to share that here because it was harrowing. You know, I know we see images of Jesus with a crown of thorns and some blood on his body, but actually, physically, if that occurred, the outcome would have been harrowing. What really got me this morning was an anger in the pit of my stomach that this was done under the guise, or the explanation of it after was to eradicate our sins, to make it all okay with a reason. Sin story aside, we cannot make harrowing situations okay with a reason, no matter how well intended. That is not divine guidance or messaging or wisdom. That is bypassing. That is bypassing. Hey, I'm just as guilty as the next person. I'll always think, well, you know, maybe it happened because of X, Y, and Z, because the truth is, some of the time, some things are just hard to digest. Doesn't mean that the body doesn't know, right? The body knows the score. Next year, as we go into 2027, into the 11th year, we are being asked to connect to our primal roots, our physical body, our intuitive, at times painful, feminine wisdom, the stories in there that have yet to be heard by ourselves and the world at large, in order to reach these higher levels of understanding. Is there anything else on that? I think that will be enough for now. Yes, there's a lot going on the global scale, and right now all I'm feeling drawn to suggest is that you do what you can where you can. So that may be praying, that may be drumming, that may be holding your loved ones closer, that may be signing petitions, that may be sharing things, that may be making people or situations more aware. Whatever you feel drawn to do, acknowledge why you feel drawn to do it, where you're doing it from. Take responsibility for that first. There's no point me drumming from a place of fear. You know, I had to work with that first when the ornaments were falling off my altar, and then show up. Do what is being asked of you. Now, on Instagram, the video stops at 20 minutes, so I'm going to stop it here. If you want to look into the energies for the week ahead, pop on over to YouTube. And for those of you on YouTube or TikTok, if I've managed to do the whole video there, thank you for sticking it out. Let's look at the energies for this week and how to best navigate them. I'm going to use the deck again of the Tower of the Everlasting Day. There's so much here that I've yet to see as I pull out the High Priestess. These decks were designed by artificial intelligence, and you know, my initial reaction would be no, but actually there's so much wisdom here when we take out the things that we know. There's so much to be found when we remove the aspects that we're certain of. Okay, even this video, so this video this morning, I could feel into the reluctance of doing it for obvious reasons. I could feel my old stories around receptivity, and I could feel the duty of care that almost made me feel angry for doing the video, but I could be aware of all these things and I still showed up and did what I needed to do. And that has brought another level of understanding to creation and myself within it. The 5 of coins, the bottom of the pack. And I've just literally skimmed over the 5 of coins like I didn't want to look at it. And I can't remember what the image actually had now, but it did have a crown at the top. Skipping through things, skipping past things that we don't want to see is not sovereign. It's not sovereign. And it might be uncomfortable. And, you know, this week we're all going to be learning a few home truths about who we are. And yes, of course, as a result, the world around us. Skipping through it doesn't change it. I'm being drawn to remember the 5 agreements here, okay? To be authentic with yourself, to be honest in your word, to not assume. How often do we do that, right? How often do we do that? To not assume, to just seek a bit more, to be a bit more curious, to be with our best. That there are going to be times this week where we feel like we just can't, and that's okay. There are going to be times this week when we go back to old behaviours, and that's okay. There are times this week where we are not going to be able to make sense of things and feel positive about things, and that's okay. Be with that, acknowledge that. Do your best with that. It's just as valid. It's just as valid part of the process. Try not to take things personally. Difficult when we're on the path of self-realization, right? Try not to take it personally. It's not all about us. It's not all about us. This video, yes, I can be aware of everything that's going on, but equally, just get on and do it. It's not always about us. Be a bit cynical. Be a bit cynical. Take everything with a pinch of salt. Just because something is happening doesn't mean it's written. Okay, take everything with a bit of pinch of salt. Yourself included. Yourself included. Lighten it up a little bit if you can. And I was going to say, I know that's not easy, but it is possible. It is possible. We can choose our thinking. Can't always choose our thoughts, but we can choose the thinking that we have with that. If we want the same things, carry on thinking about it in the same way. If you want something different, expand your mind a little bit. Be curious with the mind this week. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that the reading would be about the energy of the mind or air, because it's April, right? And we're in Aries season. But we have just had that full moon in Libra. The newsletter that I wrote this month is Aries and Graces. Okay, look at where anything we're creating may be overwhelming or not quite enough because of the mindset that's behind it. Make sure they're in balance. I hear the phrase, I think, therefore I am. Okay, we have 2 of Pentacles at the bottom of the pack. I'm going to stop there and we'll look at the energies this week. Yeah, I think, therefore I am. Be aware where your thoughts, not your thoughts, your thinking of your thought process could be affecting physically your reaction in the actions as a result. Okay, Monday, Tuesday. It's blurry on the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, yeah, okay. So I am acutely aware that there's a lot of collective energy in this reading. Overall, we have the King of Wands and we have this masculine fire energy here, right by what looks like Egypt, the desert, the Middle East. This desire to, I was going to say rule, but it's not, it's destroy. This desire to destroy is palpable. It doesn't matter the outcome this week. It is about transformation. It doesn't matter. Well, of course it matters, but what I'm getting at here is regardless what happens, this is about transformation. I'm being shown the land that is often burnt down before replanting. I've got an allotment myself that used to be the home of fires, and as a result the soil is incredible. Whatever happens this week, there needs to be a clearing now. Things, I wrote about it in the blog, things cannot go on the way that they are. Something has to give. How sovereign can we be with that in our actions? How balanced can we be with that in our actions? How patient can we be with that in our actions will depend on the level of maturity that is available, that is respected as well. So obviously, and I'm cold with this one. So obviously on a global scale, how patient are we? As a species, how patient are we? We want that change. When something is uncomfortable, we want that change. Understandably, when it comes to things like big orb, big orb then. Understandably, when it comes to things like war and death and famine and poverty, there's a exhaustion for waiting for that to happen because we believe that it's an overnight thing. Now, whilst it can be, our understanding of change itself is so unevolved. Our understanding of creativity, of fire, of spirit, of transformation is so unevolved because it's so physically fought over, not thought over, fought over, rather than seeing it from within. There is a huge lack of patience and a huge lack of maturity as a result. It is our misunderstanding of time that doesn't help this as well. So I see the sands and I see the sands of Egypt and I see the sands of time. It is our misunderstanding of time as well that doesn't help this. How peace can be born in one moment for one person and have a ripple effect. It is our misunderstanding of the reaches of spirit and transformation and change in the smallest of actions. On the Monday, we have the Six of Swords. Now, what I actually see here is the blossoms. I see the blossoms from Japan, which I know are coming out this time of year, even though it looks as if I can see troops almost going out across the sea to what looks like a war. Sometimes there are things this week that need to be said as they are. Okay, what I see underneath are the blossoms. What I see under the knife is the potential for beauty and the potential for blossoming. How can that even be possible? That is the question we're all going to face this week. This is on the Monday, but how can that even be possible with everything that is building up the way that it is? Well, 6 is harmony. Let's get back to the structure. When we don't know what is going to happen, when we don't know what is occurring, get back to what we do know. 6 is structure. 6 is choice. 6 is harmony. 6 is beauty. Okay, so where can we bring that into our lives? Where can we continue to walk the beauty way? This can be us going to war, or this can be us walking the beauty way. Recognizing what beauty is to us. Okay, so yes, we can learn from life, we can gain from our experiences, we can grow from our endeavors and our endurances, and we can believe that that's the only way that beauty can be received. We can believe that that's the only way there can be growth. On the Monday in particular, looking at areas that are easy, looking at things that do flow, looking at how far we have come and acting from there first and foremost. At the moment, it's hard to gain hope because it does feel very repetitive, but it isn't repetitive. You're not the same person. This is not the same scenarios. None of them, no matter how you look at them, they're not physically able to be the same scenarios. Sometimes that balance and harmony comes in the choice to decide to focus on what is different, not is what is the same. And that's a battle. That's a battle. The path of beauty is a battlefield one, particularly with ourselves. This is the 6 of Swords. This is the mind, particularly with ourselves. That can be the greatest fight that we have, the greatest conflict that we have. On the Tuesday, we have the Knight of Pentacles. And yes, we do see someone here ready for war, ready for battle. And yes, more than likely on the global scale as well. This character is grounded, is physically connected to what needs to be done, can also be ruled by the physical as well. So, you know, we're always aware that war is very, very much money orientated. And there is an essence of that too. What can be gained out of this conflict? But it hasn't started yet. And that's important to realise. It hasn't started yet. Thank you. Yeah. The first few days of the week can feel really quite heavy mentally and physically in the body if we try and rush ahead and get the answers, if we try and rush ahead and think this is what's going to happen based on what's happened before. It hasn't started yet. The Knight of Pentacles is at a standstill. There is indecision, and when there is indecision, there's uncertainty. When there's uncertainty, there's the potential of change still, even in our own lives. When we're not sure about something, doesn't mean we're not going anywhere. It means we have that opportunity to wait for something different. And on the Tuesday, that's what the invitation is. We can be primed. We can be ready. Tuesday is not a time to act. Tuesday is a time to be with what is in front of us. That's what's going to add to the maturity of any transformation. On the Wednesday, we have the Page of Pentacles. And what I see here is interference. And it's magical interference, actually. It's higher intelligence interfering. There are a lot of things at play in the structures of power that are becoming undone, that are being unraveled. There are people in places of power that have been manipulated also. And that is slowly becoming unraveled. And what I'm being shown here is Marilyn. I'm not saying Marilyn is one of those people, but I'm being shown the TV series I've started to watch again, Marilyn, but I'm being shown the energy of Marilyn here. I'm being shown the energies of portals here. I'm aware, obviously, that we've had the 4/4 portal, that we've had Easter or whatever, but come the 6th, 7th, 8th, there's something quite significant happening in regards to directions and doorways that we can walk through. There are going to be those that have had enough, that are going to call it quits, that are going to move on to the next dimension, the next place that they need to be. But there are also those that are able to open these dimensions from within, that are going to be more aware of that come the Wednesday, going to become more aware of their power. And it's within the heart. It's within the heart, even though it's the Page of Pentacles and it's very earth-based, it's within the heart. But it's about coming face to face with the vision that we have of ourselves within that and our potential. It may feel new, it isn't. One of the things I shared with a friend of mine a few years ago was how so long ago when there were wars, there were stories of, particularly in England, there were stories of people that would stand on the beach around the world and pray for peace, pray for England to be protected. There is so much magic that isn't being used. Okay, there is so much, potential ceremony, rituals that aren't being used, and being aware of they're still occurring, but they're just not being used with intention. Something as simple as cooking a meal and being aware of how you may be feeling about scarcity. Or, you know, when you're eating something, praying for everyone else across the globe to have enough food to eat. There are so many little bits of magic that we can do, recognizing that every stage is a portal of potential, recognizing everything we do is an aspect of magic, acknowledging the mundane for the power that it has, because when we talk about the world of spirituality, it's that's lacking. There's this rush to get to the top. No one wants to do the chop wood, carry water, but it's the chop wood, carry water that gets you into a creative zone and flow. And then anything is possible. So when you're cooking your meals, pray that the world has enough food. When you're driving your car, pray that the world has enough oil or petrol or whatever to drive their cars. When you're in your warm home, pray that the world has homes that can keep them safe. These are all magic. These steps are all magical. In a world where we feel as if we're not doing enough, recognizing what we are and can do more of is pivotal, particularly on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, we have the Five of Pentacles. Now, normally in the Five of Pentacles, there's a real victim mentality. There's a real woe is me, there's nothing we can do, because they're looking to the window of the church. They're looking for external hope that has always been there, but they're looking outside of their self. In this deck, They're walking hand by hand. They're walking together. They're in this together. The only light that is guiding them is a light on the wall. It is each other, supporting each other, that moves them forward on the Thursday. And I see an agreement there. I do see an agreement there on the Thursday that could help move many people forward. That is going to be based around money. There's no point ignoring the fact that it is all based on finances. Because until we can acknowledge that, until we can be honest with that, ourselves included, one of the reasons today with the video, I thought, well, you know, I could be out, I don't know, doing something that could make me more money. You know, be aware of that. Be aware of money as the physical need. We are in a physical world. Be aware of money as a physical need, as a foundation here. Be aware where it is out of balance, where there are places where you could invest more. I know that this retreat that I'm shying away from will be an amazing investment, but I know that I'm hoarding money out of fear. Can I afford that? Be aware of this, okay? Be aware where you can invest it more in yourselves, in small businesses, in the changes that you want to see. Be aware where you may need to be receiving more also. But ultimately, be aware of the very real reality that is money, particularly in the spiritual community. It's out of balance. Now, for me to say that is a big thing for those of you that know me, but it's out of balance. On the Friday, acknowledge this. And then go further. Acknowledge it, and then go further into what abundance is, the primal sustainability of something that makes us keep going. That makes us keep going, that spark that makes us keep going, whether that's well, whatever that is, acknowledge what that is. Acknowledge its necessity on the Friday, and then on the Saturday with the Emperor, acknowledge what that is. Would you be willing to go to war for what you believe in? Would you be willing to fight for what you believe in? Would you be willing to do so with yourself for what you believe in? Because there's lack here, there's an imbalance here, there's a seeking of faith outside of ourselves that needs to come from within here. And on the Saturday with the Emperor, I said it, I think last week or the week before, there's a dethroning here, not only collectively but of ourselves. There needs to be a new sovereign energy that comes in. The King of Wands overall isn't enough anymore. It's not enough to seek destruction and change outside of us. The Emperor becomes that. The Emperor becomes the triangle, embodies the fire. On the Saturday we may see that, and on the Sunday we come back to the Four of Coins. So it's gone from the Four of Pentacles to the Four of Coins here. The deck that I use has two depictions of the minor arcana. It has pictorial depiction and just a bog standard depiction. Two ways of seeing something, right? We can see it as the Four of Pentacles and abundance overflowing that's reachable to anybody, or we can see it as the Four of Coins, one of them being a rock, just stingy, unobtainable. The Emperor's gone upside down. Unobtainable, only about one thing type energy this week. So overall, let's see what's going on. Okay, we have one major arcana, and it is the Emperor. Yes, there are going to be transformative actions. Yes, they are likely to be war-driven, conflict-driven, whether that's globally or from within. There is a imbalance in regards to our identity, to what we really want, to the behaviours that are subconsciously there without our recognition and justification of them, that needs to change. We all need to mature in regards to spirituality, our own included. In regards to the light, our own included. In regards, thank you, to power. our own included. Next year, as we go into the 11th year, we are going to be more aware of our impact. You know, this is the laws of manifestation on another level. More aware of our impact. And unless we can get to grips with that and start building the foundations now, it's going to be like, well, children playing with fire. And that's dangerous. And that's where we are now. Collectively, that's where we are now. So bringing it back to acknowledging things about ourselves that are destructive, that have become destructive and out of control because they haven't been seen. That primal energy of mine that I see as a shadow is primal energy that hasn't been allowed to be channeled. We then have one wand card, which is the King of Wands, and I don't really feel as if we need more than that in the pack, to be fair. The King of Wands and the Emperor, you know, we have two different versions of the same energy in masculinity. One is more sovereign, one is more fate driven, and one is more in our human reactions, acknowledging what is going on in the macro. This week more than ever is reflective in our micro actions and responses, and being responsible for that is going to be key. It almost feels as if we're being crowned for the consciousness that we are this week. We then have one sword card, which is the Six of Swords. There is a transition here. Things are moving forward. Now, it can be in the path of war or the path of beauty, and that choice will come down to us based on what we decide to focus on. Now, that's not to say that things aren't going on around us. Of course they are. Of course they are. But you worrying about something and arguing with your relatives or on social media, or, you know, not being able to be with your emotions and lashing out, does that change the external or add to it? It's time to get real, right? Does that actually have a positive outcome to the wars that are going on? You arguing with someone on social media or with your family, or getting so stressed that you're finding it too hard to cope with life. Does that have a positive impact? What path are you walking? The one of beauty or the one of conflict? Make that decision. Make that choice constantly if you have to. This morning I could have quite easily fallen into the woe is me energy around this video, but I'm hoping, you never know, even if it's just me when I'm editing it, someone will see this and it will help. It will help. If we're not here to do that, then what? What is the point? If we're not here to help each other walk home, then what is the point? We then have the rest of them are pentacles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentacle cards. The change comes from the physical. The change comes from the physical, and because there's 2 4 of pentacles, the physical, what we're willing to invest in. Are we going to be constricted, held down? I've only got this much energy, this much time, this much da-da-da-da-da. Or are we going to connect to source, to connect to spirit, to connect to the light, truly connect to the light that isn't controlled by a religion or a country or, you know, a thought or a belief, but the light, which is eternal, which is limitless? Are we going to connect to the or the expansion? The choice is there. This is the currency. The light is the currency. Seek it. Be the tree. Go up if you have to. Go out if you have to. But find it. Become it. And like I say, we have 5 pentacle cards overall. And it's the Knight of Pentacles, Page of Pentacles, and the 5 of Pentacles. What is the difference between the Knight and the Page? The ability to be still. The ability to find balance. The ability to continue walking this path together, knowing that that is what brings illumination to the steps in front of you, and from there create magic in the mundane, often overlooked, no more essential, everyday, eternal expressions of light. I'm going to leave it there because I literally don't feel like I can breathe anymore. It's, oh my God, and breathe. By the end of the week, breathe. Let's have one for all of it. The Hierophant and the 9 of Wands. Okay. Right, I'm going to show these. And the Lovers underneath, that choice. The teachings that we choose to now take forward, that are being faced in the crosses that we continue to carry, regardless whose name. regardless how. The unmovable energy that has to make a decision what direction it's going to take us into. Take care, and I'll see you next week.